You don't try to add fresh leads every month. You're trying to penetrate as many companies and connect with as many people as you can. And to do that, you need to be active on LinkedIn. You need to connect with people. You need to know their email addresses, their addresses, their phone numbers. You need to be where they are at.
Welcome to the Digital Agency Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Englander. So today on the show, I'm very excited to welcome Michael Maximoff. So Michael is I think has probably a similar perspective to me and our team, in the trenches of helping people get meetings for a lot of years. And Michael's gotten to some really great heights in that game, like building up an 8-figure agency. So to go over your official bio, Michael, and let me know if you want to add anything to it. Michael's the founder of Belkins, which is the #1 ranked B2B appointment setting agency by Clutch, G2, Upcity Inc., and others. He spent over a decade building Belkins, into the powerhouse it is today. He specializes in creating budget-smart strategies that deliver impactful growth solutions for clients. He's also involved in a number of different other organizations and SaaS companies like Folderly, Bywords, ClickRoads. He's an angel investor, and you may also know him from his newsletter, From Zero to Agency Hero, as well as the Belkins podcast. Michael, great to have you on the show.
Dan, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to get into your journey, but the first question I have is, I think you've managed to do something that a lot of agencies want to do but have a lot of trouble doing, which is having an agency and then also building SaaS around it and getting involved in other side projects without going insane or ending up in the middle asylum. So can you talk a little bit about that? How maybe getting into your journey, how did you make time to do all these things?
So I started my agency back when I was in my early 20s because I didn't graduate from a good college. I didn't have rich parents, or I didn't have a name in the industry where I can start raising capital and building my own startup. What I knew was how to do lead generation. So as a result of that, we've me and my partner, when we met, we kind of get together and we build a small shop, got our friends, our spouses together, and start kind of working with customers and just building our, name and ourselves from the ground up there. And, but we were not passionate at that time, in professional services, because it's been, professional services is known to be a very challenging industry and business to run, right? You just have, clients are never happy. You always need to look for clients. They're always returning, and people are turning around, and you need to always find. So it's just a really tough place to be at, and I'm sure listeners of your show would agree with me, right? But because we've been successful in running a shop, we've generated some profit, and you cannot run an agency if you're not making money, right? So we're making a little bit of the money on this, and then instead of us spending those money on ourselves, or putting those money back in the business, we say all right, well, our agency is growing 20 to 40% year over year. So we're happy with the growth that we have for the agency. We still have a little bit of a profit. Why don't we start making first mistakes and start, setting up our own SaaS products? And we've kind of hired our own engineering team and brought in people, and literally we're just investing our own money from our own pocket into building those SaaS businesses. Now, the learnings at the end of this is don't do this, right? Because, when you try to build your own SaaS company, it sounds great early on when you're spending $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. But as soon as that company is growing and you found something interesting and you really wanted to push that SaaS company more, it just requires more capital. And because you're engaged now with this agency, you sort of are in this middle where do you need to spend now time raising capital and then talking to investors, or you still need to run this business, and investors are not happy with you being part of the other company as well. So lots of agencies now in this crossroad of I need to close my agency and focus on the product, or I cannot do the product and focus on agency. So I was trying to do both things at the same time. Obviously, I've been, young, and I didn't have kids and a family, so I could just spend all my time running these businesses. But now looking back, I'm shit, it's been challenging. And if I were to do this all over again, I would probably don't do the SaaS until I'm very happy with my agency business, and until I can either exit the agency business or make it the 100% self-sufficient without me being part of it, and then I can focus on the startup, because I made a mistake of doing both and didn't raise the capital. So over the years, instead of putting the money back into the agency, when you have a tough year and you don't have that much profit as you had the year before, you still need to feed your SaaS company, because they're not making enough the money. So now you're not paying yourself and then paying the salary out, and it just kind of gets very crazy. So yeah, so that's kind of a long answer to your question.
No, thanks for that. There's a bunch of jumping off points. I guess one is like, what are those those unanticipated issues with SaaS? Because I think a lot of people are looking at it as like, well, you just turn it on, it's automated, and people come in, the costs are low. Like, what do you wish that you knew before going into it?
Yeah. So every SaaS product starts with one kind of feature, one problem you solve, so you can automate something, and it works really well. For me, it was an email warm up and reputation building, because I was a lot into cold emailing, and the warm up thing wasn't a thing back then. So in 2017, you don't need a warm up and an email sending reputation building. So we were one of the first ones doing that, and I kind of automated that process. So I had a feature, I had like a small product, right? So then I thought, like, well, if this product people wanted to buy, then I can just hire engineering team, build more features, build a stronger product, and then market it products, and it worked really well. So so the thing that people don't know is that the sooner you start doing that and you start bringing on more engineering and start building more feature, you're then competing with other companies that are raising capital typically. So we went into a situation where we've competed with several other products that came up right at the time of us building this, but we were bootstrapping, and those guys, they raised capital. So because they raised capital, what happened was we lost the feature thing with them. So at the end of this, they basically built more features than we did. We were spending more money to help to shorten the distance between us. But because they just had more finances that we've had, what happened was we couldn't build that many features. We had to refactor our backend of the product, and we just lost the market share. Again, if I were to do that again, I would probably raise capital so that I have more capital to deploy. Because one of the things that why you need to have venture capital money was exactly the speed thing. And if you are not raising and your competitors are raising, then you can lose a short-term war. Now, the good thing is that over the years, because we were, doubling down on what we're doing in the last 7 years, we eventually built a better product. We eventually built a better solution, and we've got the market share back, and a lot of our competitors that raised capital went underwater. But those 7 years have been struggling and trying to get the proof of concept. So
that all makes sense in hindsight. The idea that you have these funded tech companies that are going to make it like harder to do the thing that you wanted to do. To take a step back a little bit, you mentioned developing the SaaS for warming up domains, and like we've all been up against this kind of arms race in terms of like how hard it's gotten to get emails through due to the email service providers adapting large language models into their systems and that kind of thing. So to take a step back to like you starting Belkins, can you talk a little bit about like what it took to get clients meetings when you started versus like what it looks like now and what's changed in that process?
yeah. So in I started doing this in 2016, into 2017. And so it's like nine years ago, just building my own agency, right? And in early days, there was only Zoom Info and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. There was not other players out there. So the data you can get, not many companies had access to the same amount of data as they have these days. So the volume of outreach was different, right? So on average, I think we've done the analysis of this. We have a data to back this up, but I think in 2017 there was around 100 cold pitches a week or a month, I don't remember, for a decision maker. and now it's over 800. So, and then every year, the trend was like about 10-20% growth, and then in the last few years with AI, it's just doubled, right? So what it tells us is, people have access to a lot of affordable tools. Like, you literally can get an outreach tool for free right now, and then I had to pay thousands of dollars before, like, because you only had like Outreach.io and then SalesLoft back in the day, right? You only had ZoomInfo that you need to pay $20,000 for, and now you have like Apollo for like $100 or something, where you can get the same amount of data with a kind of similar quality. Before you had to learn how to write cold email, right? So there was like a lot of newsletter, a lot of larger emails. And now with like ChatGPT, like a lot of people, you can get 80% of a good email, right? So a lot of people are sending more cold emails. We're now more global, more international, so just more people are well known, for the outreach. So, before you can literally get a ton of contacts, you can create a few waves of or few emails, and you can send those emails through a kind of a simple automation, and you can get a 50-70% open rate, and you can get like 20% reply rate, right? And then obviously every year it gets worse and worse, whereas at some point in time, where I think it was like 2017, 2018, we stopped booking meetings because our emails landed in spam a lot, and the only solution was out there was a company called Glockapps, where you can just just check the email domain reputation, and that's it. But no one was providing the fixing part. Like, what do I just need to change my domain names and my email addresses, or can I fix the ones that I have? So we've built Folderly as this kind of solution to help businesses like us to do this. But we were building it with our own capital. We didn't raise, we were bootstrapping, and over the years we were only building the feature that we can afford to build, because with our small engineering team, and then our other competitors were just building more stuff. So they probably were more louder than we were. But because we were building our tech as an agency, we knew that this technology should work to provide value for our customers. So over a longer run, we still won because our technology is far more superior than the competitors, because the competitors were just building a product to sell, and we were building the product to solve our own problem, right? So over time, it works really well, but it just took more efforts and more energy, just more juice out of us, which it's not something that a lot of people can give away. So, again, the learning here is that if you found a good idea of a product and you were more passionate about the product than the agency you're doing, probably give it a shot, make more sense, because you can always go back and work as an agency. Now, on the flip side, agency is a good, solid business. Like, whatever is happening in the market, whether it's blockchain or AI or any .com bubbles, people always bought services from other people. So if you're in the professional services, you always can feed your family. So that's 100%. So it's a great place to be at in any crisis, right? But on the flip side, you might just lose that kind of opportunity to make a lot of and get rich through kind of having a SaaS product, right? So it's kind of just the trade-off you need to make. So
yeah, that makes sense. And I'd love to dig into like the validity, or like how effective cold can be. There's a lot of agencies listening to this now, figuring out like should we be doing cold outreach, and to what level and to what extent. I'd love to compare notes a little bit, talk about our experience. So like what I've sort of seen is that there used to be fewer tools, and it was kind of like more expensive, and you had fewer options in terms of doing cold outreach. But there was also like way less skepticism. So like campaigns would work a lot more. So now there's like tons of cheap tools, but that also creates this overwhelm. And then it's also way harder to break through. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like if we're thinking about that agency that maybe doesn't have a huge market, maybe they're B2B, they're going a little bit more up market. Like, what's the healthy way to think about cold outreach, and what's the potential for it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I looked at outreach from the majority of my career was that outreach should be part of the sales function. So you build the list, you go out there with a nice message, maybe calling script, and you pursue those opportunities. You try to put your foot in the door, engage with people, and then sort of like those that wants to talk to you, you talk to them. Those that don't, you don't, and then you move on and add more leads and so on and so forth, right? That strategy worked well when you're part of like a blue ocean type of scenario. Now, when you're in the very like blood red ocean where like everyone is doing the same, the playbook changed a little bit, and also my perspective outreach changed. So, and this is a sort of like to your answer to your question. And the new perspective is that you have your total addressable market, and you have your sweet spot, like your serviceable market, right? And typically for any given business, it could be 1,000 companies, maybe 2,000 companies. Maybe you have only working with businesses in your local area, maybe in your county or your state, maybe several states, right? Just, that, oh, this is my sweet spot, or maybe one industry or several industries. But at the end of the day, everyone's TAM is not that large as people think. Like, they Google and say like, oh, my total addressable market is like 100,000 businesses in the US. That's bullshit. Like, there's not like that many, right? So at the end of the day, only, for a given business, I've seen that maybe like 5,000 businesses could really buy your services. Right now they're doing good. So if you know that this is your serviceable market, you need to know everyone by name. So literally, you build the list of those businesses, you build the list of decision makers, and you start connecting with them. You start building the relationship like in old days, like you build your book of business. You don't try to add fresh leads every month. You're trying to penetrate as many companies and connect with as many people as you can. And to do that, you need to be active on LinkedIn. You need to connect with people. You need to know their email addresses, their addresses, their phone numbers. You need to be where they are at. So at the trade shows, at the conferences, so literally thinking about what can I do to put myself in front of those people, and do that as often as I can. And I don't necessarily need to ask for their business, but I need to sort of like understand better where they are at, what kind of challenges they have, whether their challenges they're going through is something that my company can solve, right? Like, is this relevant? Is there like understanding their pain points and the challenges and what my solutions are, and trying to sort of like position yourselves through building awareness, like, oh, do they know about my business, right? Then sort of like, can I activate them? Sort of like, can they, is this relevant for them? Then kind of, can they engage with me? Would they want to engage with me? And only then convert. So the old mindset where the SDRs are part of the sales function is always conversion, conversion, conversion. Now, what I think is the outreach, and SDRs that are doing the outreach should be part of the marketing function that should think about awareness, engagement, activation, engagement, and building the touch points, building and then look for signals, right? So your SDRs should be a signal gatherers. So you look at the engagement, like, oh, these people are engaging with me, these people are connected with me, these people are visiting these conferences, these customers reading about this or that. So the more you think about this, the more you sort of like, the more you flip the script, instead of trying to ask for their business. Like, and we all seen that, right? Like, when someone is connecting with you on LinkedIn, the first thing they do, like, hey, I'm doing this, would you want to talk with me about this, right? Rather like just engaging in a more soft touch. So that's why I think like the new reality of the outreach is a more touch points based and signal based rather than the conversion based. And to do that, your SDR should really migrate into marketing, and marketing should think not little about just awareness, but also the kind of the more full funnel, type of.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's like, it's a situation where the definition of SDR has changed so much that it's like, can you really call it an SDR anymore, right? Because it's like that SDR was, as a stereotype, they were somebody that's maybe like fresh out of college, younger.
Right.
And their job was like shoveling coal. It's like, you're going to go dial these people or email these other people, and it's just like pure brute force. And now it's a much more technical, much more kind of creative marketing style job. So I think that there's probably agency owners listening that are like, hey, I'm just trying to figure out like what my next sales hire is going to be, or maybe even what my first sales hire is going to be. Like, what should they be doing? As an owner, what do I need to do versus like, what can I get help with? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I think it's all depend on your ICP and on the scalability of your playbook, right? So if you're in a mid market to enterprise, so literally, your sales cycles are 6 months to 12 months. You're making $100,000 contract, $50,000 to $100,000 contract per year, or something like that. Then you're just starting out with this, and then you're a founder-led sales, right? So you are the agency executive, you're building your book of business, or you're visiting conferences and trade shows, or you're generating new customers, you're getting from referrals, word of mouth, and you really want to just build more customers. The first hire for you should be a account executive or sales executive that can build their own book of business. This is actually something that I'm writing about right now, and I'm going to publish that newsletter soon. Is about the future of mid market sales is a full cycle sales. So when sales executive or account executives, like they've done before, they can go ahead and book their own book of business, generate their own new business, and then sort of like close the business, and then so do the entire spectrum instead of being hand over the leads like they used to right now with the Salesforce model, right? When you have a top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, right? But so for that mid market, the first hire would be an account executive who can build their own book of business, and they know how to do that, because usually lots of them, they lost that skill set of building and doing lead generation and new business development. If you're more on an SMB side, kind of a small to medium, when you're making between $10,000 to $25,000 per customer and you need more volume, then I would definitely do more marketing. And here, I would probably focus on the channel or program that you have the predominant gene for. And by predominant gene for, I mean like someone who could do a really cool outreach, someone who would be great at social, someone would be great at YouTube, someone would be great at calling, someone would be great at offline. So the idea is that you shouldn't be looking at like, oh, if cold outreach work, then we're going to double down on that cold outreach. And we've never done this before. We don't know how, but we're going to learn. You're going to spend so much time and money to learn that, rather than just reflecting on, hey, we're really great at content and we can create and we can double down on content. So content could be our acquisition strategy, so we can acquire customers through content because it works really well. Or I know agencies that are doing an amazing job at social and creating a viral content on LinkedIn or Instagram. I just advised for one agency who are doing great in YouTube. So they're doing like an AI educational content on YouTube, and they already like have like 30,000 followers on YouTube, and they started like 2 years ago. So my advice would be, double down on YouTube, because it already brought you like 90% of your customers. Like just do more of that, and you try to then learn one other channels, maybe LinkedIn, that you can then repackage the videos into PDFs and workflows, and then do that. But just really doubling down on that, right? So just finding out your unique gene and your competitive advantage and using that as a channel would be really well, because if you're trying to just establish yourself in the new venues all the time and not patient enough to give it a time, then you probably lose. So.
Yeah, that's really helpful, and I want to kind of double click on the former situation, because I think that reflects our audience more, where they're going after mid market enterprise, 50 to 100K deal size, and in that situation, I really liked what you're talking about, how like I think that TAM is not talked about enough. We kind of just everybody gets force fed these playbooks, and it's like, do this, go here, be there. Versus like the one mental model that I've put out there is the NFL stadium versus high school gym sort of thing. And I love taking digital and making it analog, and it's like visualizing the actual people, like what sort of room do you need to house them?
Yeah.
And if it's more like a high school gym, you're playing like a fundamentally different game. So I think that's really cool. So kind of focusing on that account executive, like let's say the agencies hire that executive. What's the sort of support that they need? Because like one thing that I've run into, and I've made these mistakes, I've seen clients make them, is like, hey, salesperson, here's our deck, like here's our ICP, good luck. Like what's the level of support look like?
Yeah. So you cannot just spend all your budget into sales. So if you have, if you look at your P&L and you have, let's say I'm making 100% of my revenue, and it's like I'm like 10% will go to sales, and then the rest will go to our client delivery, and then and then overhead, and then and then I'm making the profit, right? So if you just have the sales budget and you don't have marketing budget, then you're probably going to fail, because then with your sales budget, you're competing with other agencies that also have the marketing budget. So you are underspending, right? So literally right now, we think that 50-50 should go, like 50% goes to sales and then 50 should go to marketing. Like if you're just investing in your sales and not in your marketing, then you will lose. If you're just doing your marketing and you're not investing in your sales, you will lose as well. So you need to split like 50-50. For us, it's about 20% of our revenue. So 10% goes to marketing and then 10% goes to sales. Before I had 15-5 when I was kind of scaling more into marketing. Now I am also more in the mid-market sales. So I'm at like 10% of total gross revenue spending to marketing and sales. And what it means for me, then you have a good, strong senior sales team that have a DAC and ICP and then the other things. They can go to conferences, but also they're supported by good marketing that could provide them with lots of content for awareness building. So, very thought leadership content for, blog and articles and newsletters and ads. They have a lot of enablement. So they have case studies, they have benchmark reports, they have white papers, they have something that they can solicit with customers with. They also have a lot of help through, the webinars and the events we're doing, and as well as some thought leadership like podcast and guest posting. So we need to do that to help this account executive team to have lots of assets, lots of kind of, muscle in the game to engage with prospects and show that, we're experts in this space. We sort of like talk about this. And we obviously build all of those initiatives as, over time. We didn't have all of that, but the logic behind is, and this is more like an analogy, right? Like you have you're playing football and then, you are, you're sending your football player instead of like equipment and protection, like in a denser wear, right? Like, so they literally don't have, so, or like, you're sending your, on the knife, in the like a sword fight with a knife or something like that. It's just, that doesn't make sense for them, right? So, yeah. So whatever, how strong you are, like if you don't have the right equipment with you, then you will probably lose the fight, right? So
yeah, and what I like about that is like the objection that was coming up in my head from our audience is like, okay, I go hire this sales executive, they build their own book of business, and then we become vulnerable because like maybe they leave or whatever, and now like I've lost all that. Versus like if half of their investment's going towards marketing, that's basically the organization marketing itself. So
yeah,
I think it builds a lot of resilience.
Yeah. I think that's right. But also I think like you're spot on about the thing that yes, they, the sales executive are building their book of business. I think we need to I think that we need to be more accountable as salespeople to building our own book of business. And then, the business that we work with, they're not just, hiring us because of our skill set, but also that the book that we bring with us. Because I think like what we lost over the years is the fact that lots of account executives that I know that I hired, they came to us either with a different industry or without the book of business. So they're spending so much time and efforts to ramp up. And I am just spending and spending and spending, right? So if I'm bringing someone that already have a book of business that they can bring to the business, then it's like a shortcut. So I think like, to just do a little bit on this point, I think that more and more account executive would be more successful in their career if they care about their book of business, if they bring this book of business and they start to establish their brand in the industry without jumping between the industries. Like we've seen, especially in tech sales right now, I was selling the CRM and then I'm moving and selling LMS and then I'm moving and selling an ERP. And usually what it means that I'm changing my, my customer profile, I'm changing my industry, I'm maybe even changing my segments, right? And we've seen a lot of that. And I feel like, the future in the mid-market sales would be more senior account executives who were able to establish themselves, have a book of business, have the followership, have their own opinion and their voice. And you are able to hire those people and help them and work with them to kind of activating their book of business with your offering. And in this way, kind of generating, as about 60 to 70% of the pipeline with them, but still the remaining 30 to 40% of the pipeline marketing should bring them, while still marketing should be present to be able to also help to activate the the book of business that they bring to the business, right? But again, the short answer here is like marketing should be present, not just sales, which I think the mistake that a lot of customers are doing right now, that even we work with. They come in with a budget that they're spending for an outsourced agency like Belkins for their own sales team, but apart from that, they're not spending anything on the marketing. So we come in, like you said, with the ICP and the deck, and then they're like, okay, well guys, generate my business. And we're like, yeah, that's not how this works. Like, how do we provide differentiation? How do we communicate your value proposition to customer besides this one email? If you're not posting, if you're not creating, if you're not enabling, right? So
yeah, and they also lose the power of the surround sound effect, where somebody gets a cold email that they've heard of the company in the back of their head in some other way. So I think that's big. Another thing tied to that is like and I really like what you're saying about salespeople needing to focus on an industry, because there's a lot of situations in the agency space where the sales process and the account delivery process becomes more intertwined than other industries because of like how much trust is needed. Like, hey, we're going to deliver you this outcome, but it's not going to happen until weeks, months, or even years after I've delivered it. Is different than like, here's our software widget, here's how it works, take it or leave it kind of situation. So
yeah,
I think that's really important. Let's talk about, I want to dig a little further into doing outreach, and I'd love to compare notes. And like what we've sort of seen is that it's gotten harder and harder to get meetings via the old method, where you're like, hey,
right.
we're an agency, we do these things. Do you have this problem? Do you want to talk? Right? Like that's all going to spam, etc. And like what tends to work better is either having trust or a costly signal. And for us, that's where we're helping clients do this. It might be like, I saw you're going to this event, you're in the vicinity of this event I'm going to. Do you want to come on our podcast? Do you want to help me create this thought leadership content? Can you help me get introduced to this person? We do a lot of referral-based outreach and that kind of thing. But I'd love to hear how that's worked for you guys, and kind of what's working on the outreach side.
Yeah, before we've jump on this, right? I've mentioned to you that I love the space you're in, because I think that's the future of a lot of sales, is just kind of being a more kind of signal, referral-based, relationship-based sales in a way, right? I think like when companies like Clay are talking about signals these days, they are talking about same use cases, like when people are changing positions, or when they're raising capital, or some other thing that you can get from LinkedIn. But it's not it, right? It's how do you kind of track back the connections between the companies and the buying committees and how decisions are being made, and then how do you sort of like position yourself at the right place at the right time where the people are at, or where the decisions are being made, right? And it's a more complex game than that, right? So to your point, the future that I think that based on the clients I work with, and based on what I've seen, and based on what I'm doing for my own team, is how do you include yourself in a universe where your sweet spot contacts are at, and then how do you establish yourself with them with regards to the connections you're making with them, the conversations you're having with them, the right time and the place where they're at. Either these are the conferences or conversation on LinkedIn through comment or posts, or through the relationship of the people you worked with in the past, and they could make a connection or something like that. So there are different ways of handling that, but I think like the right signals and the right connections are very important for establishing that kind of trust, and then helping with that early business development. So that's why my playbook is, before we start selling to you, how do we put in front of you our brand or our client's brand multiple times, and then track the engagement. So like track, do you care? Is this relevant for you? Do you care about this? Do you like to read more? Do you like to engage with us? Like, did you sign up for something, right? Like, where are you going to be? Are you going to be there? Maybe we can meet there, right? So anything beyond just selling to them, but would work really well for us. So for me, really, it's about generating the right signal. And to do that, you have the kind of interconnection between sales and marketing kind of working together to do that. And then I think like where you're at is just one of the proven and a very good playbook that folks can use to to complement their other playbooks, just to create a more, I would say, like a full funnel, more end-to-end kind of acquisition motion.
Yeah, I'm glad you think so, and I appreciate that. I think that one thing that I've sort of seen is it's like the metaphor of like looking for your keys under the street light. Like you've lost your keys, but there's light here, so I'm gonna go look for them. Where it's like
Right.
there's a lot of these SaaS tools, and Clay is amazing. He does really great things, and there's a bunch of others that will give you signals, but that signal may or may not be useful to your situation. And it also tends to, I think, slot in better with bigger TAMs, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
I want to see who's getting hired right now. Well, I need a huge data set to find the needles in the haystacks. And I have like 2,000 companies, like that's not really that sustainable. So that's really great. I guess like kind of getting towards the end of our time, can you talk about like what are you excited about? You know, what's kind of getting you up in the morning on the business/tech side over the next few months?
I'm very excited about the possibility of a more deeper integration. I love the fact that systems like HubSpot or Salesforce using an AI are able to kind of open up their API even more and then try to kind of create their own kind of ecosystem of like an AI enablement products that you can kind of integrate. So I think like Clay is just the first signal to aggregation. Like people love to be able to create a more sophisticated integrations or campaigns. But Clay, more like a Zapier for the like an API for marketing. And I think like companies like HubSpot, they're catching up, and then they're looking at this as like, oh, okay, so you're storing your contacts with us. Maybe we're going to build lots of really cool integration where you can enrich them in real time. So you have kind of signals there, right? Like, oh, you have deals. Can I help you to then do more enablement for those deals? Can I then integrate it with more kind of multi-channel approach? Can we do something like else? Can we integrate with customer data, with your sales intelligence data? So I think like we're living in a very exciting world of like a more cleaner data that helps then to create a more powerful combinations of solutions and this to be done in not just in different environments, but within one orchestrated hub like HubSpot or Salesforce. So I'm one of the people that I don't like hype. So I'm one of the last people that will check out a new tool that will promise me to triple my pipeline. I won't do that, but I'm very excited about when HubSpot is releasing this new feature or this new thing, because then I'm trying to understand, okay, what's the direction of that larger companies taking that will help them to just create a more powerful solution for me and my business. So you kind of integrate one as the course, and then you're just building on top of that,
Yeah. This might be kind of like a cliche observation, but it seems like there's more and more alpha in like curation and finding the 80/20 for clients now, because it's like there's so much you can do, there's so much data you can look at, and there's a million tools that are becoming like overlapping and redundant, that there's something that makes a lot of sense to starting with, okay, like the Glengarry leads are in HubSpot. How can we do more with that or find more people like them? So that makes a lot of sense. Michael, this is so much fun, man. I learned so much. Can you tell me where people can, or to tell our audience rather, where they can go to follow what you're up to and get in touch and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently started consulting on intro.co. So especially catering around agency owners. So if anyone have questions about growing your business, especially around, not just acquisition, but also retention, hiring, mistakes making, like I've as you mentioned, I've pushed Belkins to 8 figures, but we also kind of I advise like dozens of different agency owners to move from a 0 to $1 million ARR and more. So yeah, just hit me up at the intro at Michael Maximoff, or I'm doing LinkedIn, and also I have a newsletter called From Zero to Agency Hero. So you literally can Google From Zero to agencyhero.com, and you can find me where I'm sharing insights about how I built my business and generally, my thoughts on where the market is at and my industry is at and my competitors is at and what can I do and everyone can do to just kind of be better for their clients. So
awesome, Michael. We'll get that linked up. Thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Jan, Shane, thanks for having me. I had lots of fun.
Yeah.
Great questions. Thanks, man.
Likewise. Yeah.